Good morning. Oh, happy Juneteenth. It is June 19th, and I am back with another true crime case. This one I've not heard of, and I'm going to tell you what. Oh my gosh, what a ride. I am drinking Java Mama The Flume. Okay, The Flume was out last year, and it's still good. I'm just about finished with it. It was part of our amusement park, Mama's Picks, last June, I think it was, or August. It may have been August. And there were 3 different ones named for the ride. And I also got the 3 T's as well, which are the Mama's Sips. And the Flume is actually one of the best ones. It's got a little bit of coconut and a little bit of pineapple because it's for the log ride is what it is. And I think the tea was like the bumper cars. I can't remember all of them. I know there was a coffee with a roller coaster. But I love this collection, and when they do a monthly Mama's Picks and Mama's Sips, they don't bring them back. At least I've never seen one brought back. So this is a really good one, but there's also a pina colada coffee and a cold brew coffee in that. That's supposed to be awesome. Of course, I haven't gotten it yet. So, got my coffee. I just woke up a little while ago, and I am ready to do another case here. I gotta get my glasses on. I'm horribly hot, so I'm going to try not to turn any of the loud fans on so I don't want anything to be annoying in the background. So, this one here, Micki Jo West. And this one takes place in St. Joseph, Missouri. My sources are oxygen.com. Their series, Buried in the Backyard. Episode, Dead Girls Don't Talk, I think is the name of the episode. Unsolvedmysteries.fandom.com. And The Charlie Project, which is the one that I send donations to from the proceeds of my Patreon and Spotify Premium. So, and I will link that to Micki Jo's page that they have on her there. So, Micki was born September 24th, 1959. When she was 19 years old, she was a nurse's aide, and she was 19 in 1979. And she worked with the mentally ill. She was always one that wanted to help people. She was a very nice person and very good at what she did. And that's why she went in to be a nurse's aide. On September 11th of 1979, she was on her way to work. Now she started going to work when it was dark. So it was really, really early in the morning. She was staying with her mother because she was separated from her husband. So she would leave her mother's house and walk to her bus stop 4 blocks away. And then from there, she would take the bus to work. Well, she left for work on September 11th, 1979. Later that evening, her mom got a call from Micki's coworker asking why Micki never went to work that day. She didn't pick her paycheck up. Nobody had seen her, and Micki's mother called Micki's best friend Ruth. Ruth was also her sister-in-law. So it's Ruth was married to, I'm trying to remember how this goes. I wrote it down later, so I'll just wait till I get to it. Because Ruth's last name was West also, and I've got it written down in here. So Ruth was contacted by Micki's mom asking if she knew where Micki was. Well, Ruth told her mom she was worried because her husband, she was also separated from her husband. His name was Marvin Irvin, and she's afraid that he did something to Micki. Micki was afraid of him. This is what it was. I think Ruth's brother was married to Micki. Ruth's brother was the one that was Micki's husband, and that she was separated from. So I think that if that's wrong, I'll get to it. But Micki was afraid of Ruth's husband Marvin, and what it was Ruth was separated from Marvin, and she took off. She'd stay in a hotel so he couldn't find her because he was very dangerous. And he was bothering Micki, asking where Ruth was, and Micki wouldn't let him know where Ruth was. So Micki's mother then went to the police because she knew something was not right. And then they worried about Marvin was the one that did something with her. So she went to the police and told them the story. And she called her ex-husband, who was Micki's father. And he went straight to meet her at the police station in St. Joseph, Missouri. So he went there to meet her. And they both talked to the police and asking to search Ruth's house where Marvin lived, because Ruth had left. So they did, thinking that maybe, see, they had a crawl space in our house, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, Micki's in the crawl space or somewhere in the house. But Marvin wasn't home when they went there. But so basically when they went there, nobody was there because Ruth is staying in a hotel. And they found him the next day. Marvin said he had no idea where Micki was, and he was with a friend driving around that night. But he never even saw Micki. They gave him a polygraph, and he passed. So he passed the polygraph, so he's out. Ruth was shocked because she thought for sure he was the one that did something to her. So they went to, Micki was married to Ruth's brother, Calvin. And Calvin, who was separated from Micki, was not happy that she wanted out of the marriage. So they thought, okay, well, let's go question him, And he actually threatened to throw Micki down the stairs. He didn't do it, but he threatened to do that. And they knew about that. And but he was miles away on a new job. He started a new job and was miles away, passed a polygraph on him. So he was out. Well, now they're like, what do we do now? So then they started looking at her work life because she worked with mentally ill patients. And they didn't find anything there. There was nothing that led anybody there to do anything or to be able to get out that night to do anything to Micki. And Micki always told Ruth that if Marvin ever did anything to her, she carried a small hammer in her purse, and she would just hit him with a hammer. She'd just knock him in the head if he ever came after her. Well, they put a $10,000 reward up, but they got nothing. In the spring of 1981, Sandra Hem, that's Hemme, she was an inmate in prison. Now, I was looking her up, and that's what linked me to this case. And I started reading about this case. So Sandra Hem is another pretty interesting case that I might, I don't know if I'll do it next time, but I'm going to have it on here sometime. I don't know if I'll do it next or not. I mean, because I started looking into that. And I mean, all these, I just had all these different ones I was looking up, and one would link me to one, and this would link me to another one. But Sandra was in jail, and she told someone in jail that Micki was part of a sacrifice, like a cult. And she was dismembered and buried on the Kansas side of the river. And I got to look this up on the map, and I was going to, and I got to remember to do that. It must be a river that separates Kansas and Missouri. Because it sounds to me like there's a lot, kind of like the one I did with the Apple River stabbing. Like there's a river that, and I was going to look it up on the map and I forgot. So if I look that up, I'm going to screenshot it and I'll put it in with all my photos and stuff on Patreon, because this will be early access for Patreon. And it'll drop Friday, the 21st, on the regular podcast. Okay. They searched both sides of the river. The press was all over it. And this is how her family found out about this claim that she was part of a sacrifice. Satanic cult. Because the press was all over and got it out before they even, like, they weren't going to tell the family because they didn't know this was true. But there's the press, So they did find ritual markings on areas around there, like on the rocks and stuff. But Sandra Hem admitted she made up the story. Now, Sandra Hem is mentally ill. So I'm just going to put that out there right now. So she said she made up the story. So they wasted all this time. The family was horribly, horribly devastated thinking about this because someone made up the story. On the 7th anniversary of Micki's disappearance, 9/11/1986, an anonymous letter surfaced addressed to police outside. It was addressed to police and it was left outside of some store in a mall. I don't know where it was. I don't know if there was a mailbox there or there was, I don't know, but it was addressed to police and it was just left there. The note said, quote, "I need your help. I was with Marvin Irvin and he killed Micki Jo West. I need your help or I'm going to kill myself." So that's what the note said. It was not signed, of course. And they couldn't figure out who wrote it, where it came from. Now, then they started looking more into it. Once they got this note, they started looking more into the story, and they're like, wait a minute. Marvin passed a polygraph, but they never followed up on the friend he said he was with. Wouldn't you do that as part of the investigation? He said he was driving around with a friend that night, and he never saw Micki. Why didn't they find this friend? His name was Billy Hayes. So they found him. Billy Hayes said he was not with Marvin. They asked him if he wrote the note. He did not write that note. He said he was not with Marvin that night. Marvin had moved to Jefferson, Iowa, which is 200 miles away. They found him, questioned him about this whole thing with Billy Hayes. He says he was with Billy Hayes, and he sticks to the exact same story he did. Now, February of 1988, another letter came to a news station. There were more letters during all this time, and there's one that came to a news station, not the police. So, the letter asked a reporter to meet them alone, and they would take them to Micki's body. Well, nothing came of that. The person never showed up. They didn't know who they were. There was nothing there. Nothing came of it. So, they had no idea who was writing the letters. They didn't know what, and there were, like I said, there were quite a few of them. 9 months later, September of 1990, another girl in St. Joseph, Missouri goes missing. Her name is Patricia Rose. She's a divorced mother. And she was with a group of people at a neighborhood bar. But get this, the people left and they just left her there by herself. They all left and she stayed. Now, I don't know if that was her choice to stay. It could have been. I don't know. Maybe she was in the middle of drinking and she wanted to finish her drink. You know, how you got, you just ordered a drink. You're like, well, wait, I just ordered this. All right, I'm going to drink this and whatever. Oh my gosh. So they left her there. So then she went missing, Patricia Rose. 2 months later, another woman, 33-year-old Crystal Simmons, goes missing from a bar. And I don't know if it was the same bar or a different one. The bartender said there were only 2 people there, Crystal and a black man who looked to be in his 40s. They had left together. Now, this matches Marvin's description. So they left together. The public was notified right away to be aware of someone, a predator, not really serial killer because these girls are missing, but someone who is taking of the disappearances. So they let the public know to be on the lookout, be careful when you're out, and the police got another letter. Now, this letter was written by an inmate at a jail, and the warden or whoever, or an investigator who was investigating it, got the letter, and the letter said, so they contacted the police station, and the letter said Marvin came home bloody last night and had a woman's watch, a bloody watch. Oh, wait a minute. The quote was Marvin came home bloody last night. Sorry, that was the quote in the note. And the woman's watch. Okay, that was in the note. I got the quote in the wrong place while I'm reading. So sorry. So he came home bloody and had a woman's watch, a bloody watch. So they found who the inmate was, of course, because it came from a prison. It was someone named Mary Irwin. She was Marvin's sister. And she said this was about Patricia Rose. And they questioned her. I think they questioned her about it. There was a second letter that Mary wrote that said Marvin said he made a mistake and the mistake was in his trunk. And he asked if he could use a shovel. And this note, they said, was about Crystal Simmons. Now, I don't know how they know what the notes are about. I don't know if he mentioned the name to Mary, his sister, or what the deal was. And I forgot exactly. I don't think they said where this prison was. If it was in Kansas, or I think it was there in St. Joseph. If I can remember. Because, yeah, I'll get to this. Because if they're close together, like right on the border, like I said, I'm not sure exactly where the prison was. But, my gosh, I'm just like, oh boy. Okay. Now, the thing is, Marvin was in town when these two women disappeared. He was in St. Joseph. And so they did a search of Marvin's house. They were able to go back to his house. They did a search. They found him in bed with his wife. And a small hammer was next to his bed, which was very odd. Now, I never found out if the small hammer was Micki's, because Micki would carry a hammer with her. And if it was a small one, because she would put it in her purse. So that told me that was hers. They found cowboy boots with blood inside of them. And in the trunk of his car were some bloody underwear. Now, he had a car and a pickup truck. They searched his pickup truck. And they took the doors off and the door panels off. There was blood that that was inside the door panel that had run down, like when you have the window down or where the window is, and so there was blood inside the door panel, and they arrested him right there. DNA was that Patricia Rose was killed in his truck, and Crystal Simmons was killed in the car. So now that tells them what the letters were about, So I don't know if that's why they, it jumped ahead and said that that's what the second letter was about Crystal, because she was killed in the car and Patricia was killed in the truck. So, they arrested him right there. He was charged with murder, but he wanted an attorney so they couldn't question him. So there was no interrogation, no questioning, none of that. November of 1990, 4 days later, someone found there was some hunters that were out by this cornfield, and it was someone's backyard. This cornfield was, so it was like cornfield right in the backyard. But there was no corn at the time, but it was just the cornfield, and they found a skull. They noticed, the police came, of course, they called the police, and they noticed that there was still some hair and flesh on the skull. And then they searched more in the backyard, and they found the remainder of the bones with the skull. They dug more and found another body, and it was more preserved because it was in a cooler area. So they found both of these remains, and they were able to identify that the preserved body was Crystal Simmons and that the skeletal remains were Patricia Rose. They both died of blunt force trauma. Then they started looking more into Micki Jo West's disappearance by going over the old files again. And they knew something, that he was connected. They just knew he did something with Micki, And they thought they were going to find Micki. When they got the news of the skull being found, they thought it was Micki. So They start looking into Micki Jo's disappearance again, and they found that Marvin had an ex-girlfriend, and they brought her in to question her. This just kind of gets to me because, I don't want to jump ahead, but they questioned her, and she said Marvin admitted to her that he killed Micki because she wouldn't tell him where Ruth was. Ruth was the estranged wife that left him, and he asked his ex-girlfriend to help him get rid of the body. This is what gets me. Why didn't she come forward before? She could have saved these other two girls got killed. If she would have came forward before, he wouldn't have killed these other two girls. That's what gets to me. But she got in and saw a body covered in a blanket in the back seat. They stopped at a cornfield of course, there was no corn planted yet. And he wanted to make sure Micki was dead, so he shot her a couple times to make sure she was dead. And there's a reason for this. But so because of this, they were able to charge him with Micki's murder. He pled guilty of the 3 murders. And what happened was he got Patricia and Crystal to leave the bars with him to go to another place because that bar was going to close. He had the same tactic with both of them, that they would go somewhere else and have a drink after that. And yeah, they left with him. So he must have been pretty charming because, I mean, they didn't even know him, you know. So I'm thinking he was a pretty charming guy. He's like, hey, yeah, let's go over to this other bar and have another drink. I'll buy you a drink, whatever. And so they left with him. He knew where to bury them in Kansas. He buried them in Kansas because he hunted in that area as a kid. So that's why he was in both places. So it's like I didn't know exactly what prison his sister was in when she wrote those letters. But Micki, he got Micki as she walked to her bus stop for work. And what he did was he beat her while trying to get information out of her to tell him where Ruth was. So he would just beat her up. So he didn't want to kill her yet because he needed to know information. And that's when he beat her so bad that he thought she was dead. That's why he ended up shooting her at the cornfield, because he wasn't sure she was really dead. She was just, she could have been out, you know. But she would not give up the information where Ruth was. She said she didn't know. And maybe she didn't know where Ruth was. I don't know. She probably didn't know. Ruth probably didn't tell anybody because she didn't, you know, she was, now they were best friends. Ruth and Micki Jo were best friends. That's why he knew. He just thought for sure Ruth told Micki where she was, and she probably didn't, you know. So he beat her up and shot her and buried her out in the cornfield. And then he agreed to show the police where Micki was if the death penalty was not an option. So they plea bargained with him. This is another thing that I don't like. And there's a reason. I understand it. Because you want to find her body. So I get that. But this is the thing. They went to that same cornfield. He said she was buried right there in that same area as the other two. They had a backhoe in there. They searched and dug day and night for 3 days. They found nothing. But now he doesn't have the death penalty. So what I would have done is said, okay, we didn't find her. Death penalty's back on the table. I would have said that right away. Like when you plea bargain, say, if we don't find her, we go out there and we dig like this and we don't find her. And it might be different now. This was 1990. It might be different now. But if you don't find her and you say she's out there, you're getting the death penalty. You know, that's your plea bargain. And if you don't find her, I mean, that's a lot of time. Day and night for 3 days. I mean, they searched and searched and searched. And the actual footage of this is on Buried in the Backyard. And I think it was season 2. Gosh, I'm trying to remember which season it was, 2 or 3. It's a good episode. But it's Dead Girls Don't Talk. Because he said that to his ex-girlfriend when they went to bury Micki Jo. She told the police, he said, dead girls don't talk. So she was afraid he was going to kill her. But I still wish she would have came forward at least sometime after that. I could not live with that at all. So, oh my gosh. But Micki Jo West still has not been found to this day. And that's why she's on the Charlie Project. So the Charlie Project is where her information is listed. And I will put that link in the show notes. If I can remember to, I'll put it in the show notes, and then I'll put it in my Facebook page post and Instagram and Patreon, because it will be up for early access today for Patreon if it uploads pretty quick here, and Spotify Premium. It'll be early access, and then it's going to hit the podcast on Friday. Now, Ruth, her best friend, feels guilty over this. She says she feels so guilty that Micki Jo would still be here if not for her, and if she would not have brought Marvin into their lives. But you don't know he's bad. You know, when you meet a guy or a woman, either way, you don't know they're abusive at the very beginning. And murder. I mean, it sounds to me like Mickey's the first person that he murdered, and then he murdered 2 other girls. It's just strange. Then I got to think, did he murder anybody else earlier in his life? He has a Wikipedia page. It's Marvin Irvin. I think Irvin's his last name. But yeah, he has a Wikipedia page, because when I was looking up the case, that came up. And of course, I didn't read it. I didn't go in and read it, but I thought there would be more information on Micki Jo that I hadn't found out. But I think I covered pretty much the whole case here with this. So, and like I said, her information's on the Charlie Project that I will link, and that's the one I give to. I make donations to that from my proceeds, and Patreon and Spotify Premium are both $5, and you get to hear all of my bonus episodes. And my bonus episodes are from everywhere. I do episodes that are based on movies, or movies are based on. I did the River's Edge murder. I did Cry in the Night, the dingo with the baby in Australia. I did that one. I do all kinds of them from everywhere. I just did Clara Harris from Texas, who really was upset at her husband for having an affair. And I started this in September of last year. So there's 3 bonus episodes a month. So you can do, I think there's about 30 episodes on there for $5, and you can listen to all of them. I think I'm up to 30. It might be 20. It's 28, 29. I've only done 2 so far this month. And then I'm going to do the 3rd one toward the end. But, and I also have one of my novels on there that you can listen to, which is Stranded in Time, which takes place in 1978. So that's also on there as a bonus gift to my Patreon supporters and Spotify Premium supporters. Excuse me. So, happy Juneteenth, everybody. Oh, I was going to talk about something that I watched. I do this all the time and I forget. I watched... I talked about it last time, the social media murders. Deadly Influence. That's what it's called. Deadly Influence Social Media Murders was on. It's a new one on ID, and then I streamed it on Max. It's really pretty good. I've only watched a couple. I think there's 3 episodes. Oh, the new season of American Monster just started, and I watched that Sunday night. That was a sad one. Oh my gosh, it's a sad one. That is one of my favorite series on ID, and last Sunday night. Oh my gosh, it's so sad without giving it away. I felt really bad for the daughter that was on there talking. Just a sad case all around. But I think that's what I was going to talk about, because it seemed like I saw something else, but we're having some trouble. I'm always having trouble with our internet, so sometimes Max doesn't come in. It'll come in for a little while, and then I watch Netflix and Peacock. Peacock is where I streamed Buried in the Backyard on Oxygen. So that's on Peacock. I forgot to say that at the beginning. Or if you've got Oxygen, you could probably find it on demand. But that is a good series as well. like I said, if I can remember what I was going to say, what I watched, but I am going to upload this, and I'm going to add in my photos on my Facebook page and my Instagram. So, I know what it was. A new podcast. The Detective Perspective. If anybody listens to Crime Weekly, the guy's name is Derek. I can't think of his last name now. I'm blanking on his last name. He's got a great voice. He's a great, he's just good at his coverage, and it is a good one. It's called The Detective Perspective. And what it is, all the crimes are unsolved, but he tells about them, and then he puts his perspective on what he thinks happened, and, to kind of get to why it happened and why they haven't found the people. That's another thing. They haven't found people. But I like this one because it gives attention to cases where the people are not found, or cases that aren't known that are still out there where the culprit hasn't been brought to justice. And he did the if I'm saying the right word, I think that's the name of the town. Las Cruces, bowling alley, murder. Oh, that's a sad one. Little 12-year-old girl is on the 911 call, and I'm going to tell you what, that little girl was very strong to be able to call 911. If you haven't looked up that case, look it up. That one and the yogurt shop one. And there was a podcast that said those two cases were linked because the bowling alley, one's in New Mexico and one's in Texas, and the yogurt place is in Texas. That's another sad one. And they think that they're linked because they had the same owner or something. I don't know, but they're both sad, especially, they both are very sad, because the yogurt place, young girls got killed in that one, and they were closing up for the night. It's just as sad. I could cover those on my Patreon, but they've been done many times. The bowling alley one hasn't, I don't think, as much as the yogurt shop one has. But if anybody has any suggestions, let me know. I try to stay in the Midwest on my regular platform, my regular podcast. But if anybody has a good suggestion for me, I can put it on there. I usually do Patreon for any ones that are outside the area or outside the country. So if anybody has any suggestions, please let me know. And my email will be in the show notes too. So that's all for today. I'm going to quit babbling here and get off of here. And everybody have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday, Juneteenth, and a wonderful Friday if you're listening on Friday, or the weekend. Have a great weekend, everybody. And middle of June. Hope everybody's staying cool. It's in the 90s here, which sucks. I hate the 90s, so I try to stay cool inside. So that's all for today. Have a great one, everybody, and I will see you next time.